And so first, I'd like to acknowledge that Northwest Creative and Expressive Arts Institute is on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish people, past and present. And we honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. So my name is Sibel Golden. I'm the executive director of Northwest Creative and Expressive Arts Institute, which is a mouthful, I realize. And we have been in existence since 2015. So we're celebrating our 10th year anniversary this year. And we really started with the vision. It was myself and two other people who are art therapists, and myself, who's an expressive arts therapist. We wanted to create a space where we could offer continuing education to therapists who would like to learn how to bring the arts into their work. That was the initial seed of the idea, because that wasn't happening in our area at all. So we started there, and then about a year later, or so, I kind of took the reins of the organization, and we are a nonprofit 501(c)(3) organization. And we started to expand, and we added on the training program. So the cohort coming up in 2026 is going to be our ninth cohort for the training program. And we still do the workshops, and we've expanded quite a bit in the last 10 years. And I want to just share a little bit about what the expressive arts is, what that even means, and acknowledge that really the concept of the arts in humanity is ancient. The arts being a human need, creative expression being a human need. We've been storytelling and painting and creating objects and rituals and playing and healing. These are all ancient practices, and both expressive arts therapy and expressive arts facilitation draw from these practices. And we always want to pay attention to that and honor that and recognize that. Paulo Neal was one of the, I would say, grandfathers of bringing this work into Western psychology, Western practice, and he also acknowledged that the role of imagination and ritual that is shared between contemporary psychotherapies and all ancient traditions. Also evident that the arts are the bridging existential phenomena that unite ritual, imagination, and dream world in a way that no other activity can do, according to Paulo. And this is actually from the IATA website, but we adopt it since we're very close to IATA, and I'll explain that in a minute. That's International Expressive Arts Therapy Association. Um, we believe the arts should be accessible to all, irrespective of their race, ability, ethnicity, religion, lived experience, geographic location, sexual orientation, gender, or socioeconomic status. We're committed to ensuring our materials and events are inclusive and promote the representation and participation of all groups and individuals. And I would say that we share these values with IATA and are always striving to be better. So I'm going to continue to go over a bunch of slides and then have time at the end for questions. So what is expressive arts? What are we talking about here? Well, expressive arts is a bit different from the singular creative arts therapies. So you might have heard of drama therapy, dance movement therapy, music therapy, art therapy, poetry therapy. Expressive arts therapy is multimodal and also integrative, or what is sometimes called intermodal, also culturally congruent. And in all of this is our creative arts approach. So where did this even come from? Well, the expressive arts don't have a single theoretical core. The field is pretty eclectic and we embrace, but of course, this is not an exhaustive list of what we embrace. We're not limited to aspects of humanistic psychology, narrative, Jungian, Gestalt, phenomenological, existential, somatic, cognitive, relational, cultural, social, emotional learning, and strengths-based perspectives. So really, there is um, in in all that we do, there can be a nod, at least a nod to one or more of these approaches. We do have a humanistic, or I would also say an existential humanistic, client-centered foundation in our program. It's a belief that expressive arts therapists and facilitators walk alongside the client and meeting them where they are in their unique and collective experiences. And Natalie Rogers is a very fuzzy picture of her. I don't know why I can't find a non-fuzzy picture of her. She was the daughter of the humanistic psychologist Carl Rogers, and she created the person-centered expressive arts therapy approach. All art that comes from an emotional depth provides a process of self-discovery and insight. We express our inner feelings by creating outer forms. And when we express these feelings in visible forms, we're using art as a language to communicate inner truths. We draw a lot from Natalie's work. Um, Her book, The Creative Connection, is actually a core book for level one of our program. This is very wordy. I do have a few extremely wordy slides. But I also want to say that in the integrated approach of expressive arts, we're paying attention to the somatic, psychological, social and cultural and spiritual development of a person. So it's really, in its integrated approach, it is holistic. And of course, we have our humanistic approach in looking at all of these parts of life, parts of the human experience. The expressive arts can support healing from emotional wounds by relying on multiple approaches to liberating the body, mind, and heart. Expressive arts, or EXA, you might see EXA a bunch, which means expressive arts, is grounded in a strengths-based approach that allows the client to see themselves in the context of the world around them rather than in isolation. It's just such a beautiful approach. So what is intermodal? So intermodal means, like I mentioned before, that the singular creative arts therapies they focus on their singular creative arts practice. And in expressive arts, we are working with dance movement, writing and poetry, music and sound, um, drama, enactment, play, and visual arts, all of it. And we're intermodal because we can move from one arts experience to another. So um, we might begin with somebody working somatically, and then maybe that brings a gesture or a movement. And then perhaps the movement guides the person into visual arts or um, or perhaps there's not a, a, an understanding of where to go from movement, and the expressive arts therapist or facilitator can help with offering what happens if we do some poetry in response to movement. What happens if we bring this into enactment and so on. So intermodal is using it's using more than one arts modality in a single session with client or group or whoever you're working with. That ability to do that. Oops, did I just stop sharing by accident? Yikes. Sorry, wrong button. Okay, you can see it again? Okay. Okay, so what we have added to our program in this last cohort is expressive arts facilitation. So I'm wondering if anybody in this group is not a therapist. Denise? Okay. So this would be your area. So expressive arts facilitation is different from expressive arts therapy. The facilitator can serve a group, organization, even individuals, and a facilitator is skilled in guiding people through various creative expressive arts processes to promote self-expression, well-being, and personal growth. Usually we see a facilitator working in leadership or education, community building, healthcare, coaching, pastoral counseling sometimes. And expressive arts facilitators offer teaching and consulting across many, many disciplines. So, like I've mentioned, coaching, healthcare, community building, organizations. And it is very broad stroked how a facilitator can bring expressive arts into all of these areas. It's very flexible. What we're not doing as a facilitator is psychological therapy. So there's a certain scope of practice that, entering into the training program, you learn, what are the things that you would not do as a facilitator. But you still get to work multimodally and intermodally. And the Expressive Arts Facilitator program can be a path to obtaining what's called the REIS, or Registered Expressive Arts Consultant and Educator. And that is with IATA, as I mentioned before, which is the International Expressive Arts Therapy Association. So both of our programs, the facilitator program and the therapist program or clinical program, can lead to different credentials with IATA. And I'll say a little bit more about that later. So expressive arts consulting and education can find itself anywhere in the world. It helps people become present, helps people perceive the world from different angles and perspectives than perhaps they have before. And that is a quote from Topaz Wise, who is on our faculty. And she actually helped develop the REIS credential. Very wordy again. So what is expressive arts therapy? It's a form of therapy, a therapeutic approach that integrates various creative processes like the ones I have mentioned, and it encourages individuals to engage in the creative and artistic process as a means of communicating emotions, thoughts, experiences that might be difficult to express through talk therapy alone. So this is a way that people using the arts can explore their inner world, gain insight, um, work with symbols that might connect to parts that need attention. And we're working with what is, um, I would say, it's I want to say about it that veers from this slide. We're working with symbolic material that comes up in the expressive arts that can be so surprising and so amazing and so heartening. And we can see it, perceive it, look around it in a different way than we might be able to in in talk therapy alone. I'm not against talk therapy at all. I absolutely not. This is a way to enhance and maybe bridge some things that people are working on in talk therapy um, to trying on solutions. And I mentioned that our foundation lies in the humanistic existential approach. You'll get these slides. Through creativity, we can give form to the formless and to make visible the invisible. That's basically what I was trying to say. Pat B. Allen can say it much better than me. Making art provides an opportunity for the safe expression, or I would say safe enough, a safe enough space to express feelings and the opportunity to try on different solutions. You have that aesthetic distance that can just create so much insight. So what I think is a fantastic part of our program is that both levels, I mean, both paths begin at level one if you're doing the online clinical program. Both the path of the expressive arts therapist and the facilitator, if you're doing the facilitator program, begin with level one. Because level one everybody learns the same necessary things, the foundations in level one. And the learning process in level one is kind of a three-pronged approach. We do a lot of experiential, hands-on learning, learning through class experientials and expressive arts invitations, and then also your own individual creative practice. And then we also offer mentor groups as well as individual mentoring, and then, of course, peer learning, which is always wonderful. And then we offer understanding and knowledge through readings and discussion and presentations. We have a library, an online library of different readings and different resources that sometimes are required, and plenty of it is just for your own perusal, I would say. Um, and then we work with how are we going to apply all of this? What do we need to know and feel confident enough to apply the learning to whatever work environment that you're in? And for folks who are wanting to be in the clinical program and maybe go towards the Reese, there is a practicum that happens that starts in level two. And there's supervision and there's advisement for facilitators and a capstone project for them. Yeah, so this is a plug for getting involved in your own creative process work. Sean McNiff, I would say another grandfather, he and Paolo um, worked together at Lesley College, which is now Lesley University, I believe. Through involvement in the creative process, we bring forth life, fashioning it and ourselves. So it's highly encouraged, and it's really important that the creative arts therapist or facilitator engage in their own creative work. So here's the program. So we start with creativity foundations and multicultural competency and ethics. These are two async courses to get you started. And creativity foundations basically begins with the self as the artist and the self as the expressive arts therapist. And I'm sorry, I didn't include, I gotta change that, and facilitator. It's working with deconstructing what I call the art wound or art trauma that some people have, which creates a pretty intense inner critic sometimes. And it's about it's about getting to know that critic and understanding it more, and then embracing an inner artist or muse or mentor. Um, and one of the projects in that course is to create an artist family tree, um, which really helps with finding that inner artist or muse and building creative practice. And then multicultural competency and ethics. We do examine the guidelines that are put forth by IATA, both for expressive arts therapy and facilitation, scope of practice. Um, but then what's really special about this course is that we overview cultural diversity practices in expressive arts therapy and facilitation through uh, video. I want a fancy word for it, but I can't really think of a fancy through videos of people in our program, faculty in our program, alumni from our program who talk about their own experiences of this. Vignettes? That's a little too fancy. Um, and then we move into foundations and intermodal practice, which is live online. And we work with starting to understand what that person-centered approach means in expressive arts, phenomenological foundations, which is not meant to be big and intellectually scary in any way, but it's about being in the experience of creating and witnessing creativity and attuning and embodiment, both in the creative practice and being present to others being in that creative practice. There's learning some of the language of expressive arts and learning what do we do after somebody has created a dance movement or created a visual piece. Um, how do we process that together? And then we focus on foundational intermodal exploration, including all of the creative arts that you see, and I'm going to go through those right now. So some of the stuff that we do in the visual module is we do an introduction to visual arts materials. Um, what's the difference between an oil pastel and a chalk pastel? Some people know that, some people don't. So we do a basic overview of some of of the materials that you might be using. Um, we engage in some drawing and or painting experientials, work with collage, work with mixed media. Clay is a maybe. Sometimes that is saved for this year. It's being saved for level 2. Oh my God, what is it called? In level 2, you get to, I'll come back to it. So sometimes we've done clay as a foundational medium, and sometimes we are putting that off to level 2. Mask making and photography is included. Sometimes 3D assemblage. We did some doll making in the hybrid group this year, but we didn't offer that for the online group. Um, and we will probably offer that for level 2. We teach open studio process, which is a very useful process to learn that Pat B. Allen created, and some aspects of visual journaling. And then we do an integration of the visual arts for intermodal practice. So how do you work with visual arts and movement? How do you move from visual arts to poetry or vice versa, etc. Electives is the word I couldn't remember. There are electives in level 2, and sometimes we save some of the more, I don't know, like sand tray and clay, and doll making are extras sometimes that some people want to really dive into that and some people don't. So we're kind of we're kind of feeling that out. And then writing and reading, a little bit of bibliotherapy and working with words. So we work on some basic approaches to creative journaling. These are all of the modalities in level 1, very foundational. Writing and poetry. Actually, we have 2 alumni that are teaching some of the poetry now, which is just beautiful. And then bibliotherapy, just from the point of view of how do you work with existing stories in expressive arts, and then the integration. And enactment and play. We offer basic drama therapy skills and improv and storytelling. Using masks, usually we do that in level 1, sometimes puppets. And then self-revelatory performance is something that may be in level 1, but may not be. Which leads me to the drama therapy specialization, which is something new that we're working on with our drama therapist, faculty member, Bobby Kidder. She's actually able to offer an alternative path to becoming a registered drama therapist. So this is something that would be not starting until level 2, and then you'd be working with Bobby if you like think that the drama therapy module is like all that and a bag of chips and you want to keep going with that, this is another possibility for you. And then we offer movement and embodiment. We start with just some basic somatic and sensory awareness, some authentic movement, and basic dance movement therapy skills or approaches. And always that integration. How do we bring this into intermodal practice? And then with sound and music, we work with music, sound, lyrics, using the voice as an instrument, um, rhythm and percussion. Those are part of our foundational pieces. And additional components of level 1. So I mentioned the reading and resources engagement, a whole library that we offer there with via an online learning platform, which is the way that we offer those async courses as well. You're also in a mentor group that meets about once a month for 2 hours. And then you get in level 1, you get there's 6 mentor group sessions, and then there's 6 individual mentoring sessions, which is an hour working one-on-one with the mentor that you're matched with. There's also creative process group, which is, I just started it last night with the new hybrid group. And we talked about how metaphor and imagination and intuition and humility are all really important parts of expressive arts um, and important parts of creative practice. Um, and then we also use that process group to talk about the open studio process, as well as talk about the culminating project, which happens at the end of level 1. So you start working on that project in creative process group 1, the project planning. And then there are presentations at the end of level 1 of your culminating project, and they are amazing. let's see, the June group, those projects were incredible. And people really got so creative working with um, uh, creating like art-based creative environments that you actually walk into, and there are different things that you can do. It's the whole plan for that. And somebody else did a full sensory process, which was like a tea tasting. And this is all, we don't actually do it, which is like hard, but it's a plan for a whole process that you would invite people into. Um, so everything from those real experimental um, ideas to how do we work with a group of adolescents on the spectrum using creative arts. Then level 2 for clinicians um, who want to go on that REIT path or just want to continue into level 2, that would begin fall 2026. The practicum is 200 hours while you're in the program. And then you continue with monthly supervision and individual supervision. Mentoring moves to supervision, and creative process group 2. There's a class in trauma-informed approaches, and then electives. You get 24 hours of electives, and that's all included in level 2. And electives are everything from classes that we might create for only training students in level 2, and also any workshops that we offer that offer also CEs could be included in electives. So again, this is about the practicum. You've got to be a student. So even if you finish all the coursework, but you're not finished with the 200 hours, you stay with us and do your supervision until you're done with the hours. And we just try to make it as simple a path forward as possible and flexible, because not everybody can do 200 hours in 6 months. And then there's other nuts and bolts that have to do with if you are going towards the REIT. And I'm happy to answer questions about this, but I won't get stuck on this slide. And then level 2 for facilitators and the Reese path is a little bit different. So after level 1, the facilitators and the clinicians kind of separate a bit. And facilitators have some different courses, including group process in expressive arts in community and educational organizations, and developing the facilitator philosophy. And they also have a 25-hour capstone practicum, and also the intensive, which I can't believe I just missed saying that, the 4 to 5 day intensive here in Seattle. You also facilitators get individual and group advising. Path to the Reese, can answer some questions about that. But we highly recommend, if you are interested in the REIT or Reese credential, that you go to the IATA website and take a deep look at that. Professional benefits adds to and refreshes your clinical skills. I think we have an exceptional faculty, and I think it's getting better all the time. We have a cohort model. We are really committed to our students gaining the confidence that they need to use this work in any work setting. Working towards that credential, that registration, being part of a growing community. And I don't only mean our own community, but I mean the community in the world. I think that this work is really getting more and more understood and known and supported, and the community is growing. And if you're an educator in Washington State, you can get clock hours, and you can get continuing education also wherever you are in in the country, if you're a clinician. Personal benefits, there are many, many, many. I always hear about the personal benefits that people gain from being in the program. Certainly engaging in creative practice is enhancing, personally. And I think that what is so important also, and what we value so highly, is that our students are experiencing what they will offer the people they work with. And I think that's extremely important to get like a full understanding of the depth and breadth of what this work is. And also we teach, through this work, new ways to sustain whatever work we're doing, through our own creative outlets and practices. Okay, so I'm going to stop.